it looks like Jen Rosati and Dawn Staley and all those folks that Cheryl Reeve, who had a hand in Caitlin Clark not making Team USA last year in the Olympics, the actual committee, looks like they may be gone.
What happens if the most marketable female basketball player is excluded from the Olympic squad? Heads roll, apparently.
I'd rather watch paint dry. I'd rather watch dirt just be moved around because Caitlin Clark's not on the team. If she's there, it's appointment TV. You people, whoever did this, honestly, hey, take your brain, put it in a museum, and study it for how dumb you are.
Following the Olympic snub of Caitlin Clark, USA Basketball announced a full revamp of its selection process, and people are being dismissed in what can only be described as karma in action. Now that Sue Bird is in control, the Indiana Fever Stars' route to Los Angeles 2028 appears to be completely different. Nobody anticipated the consequences of this choice. What actually transpired with Cheryl Reeve and the U.S. Olympic Committee, then? Comment CC 2028 below if you're thrilled about Caitlin competing in the Olympics. Come on.
It used to be a committee. Dawn Staley, Jennifer Rizzuti, and all of the hooligans associated in picking the USA basketball team. All of the hooligans, Cheryl Reeves included, so full of themselves, so bound by tribalism that they just couldn't look past their own nose. And at the end of the day, look at them now. Look at them now. The same fate as Cheryl Swoops calling those Dallas Wings games. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Caitlin Clark was left off the team by the Olympic Committee for a variety of reasons. Or at least that's what they wanted us to think. The chair of the selection committee, Jen Rosati, claims that basketball criteria alone were used to make the decision. Experience was important, playing internationally was important, and popularity and marketability were not factors.
Remember during the Olympics, the person from either South Korea or Japan, holding up the Caitlin Clark sign? Team USA looked at that gentleman and said, $sign, $sign. These people over there in Japan, these people over there in South Korea, they're not paying for Team USA to come and watch hoop, but they'll pay for Caitlin Clark. In fact, they are so strong about voicing that they'll pay for Caitlin Clark, they'll come to the Olympic game holding a sign that says, you guys remember.
Hold on, what? Are you saying that they disregarded the most influential player in women's basketball who also happened to shatter almost every NCAA scoring record? In little than a year, this player completely changed the women's basketball scene. Make sense of it. Furthermore, popularity is not the only factor. Playing for the USA in the FIA Under-19 tournament, where he won gold twice and was named tournament MVP, Clark gained a great deal of international experience.
Decision on his part. Caitlin Clark is PR. That's where, how can they leave her? Once again, everybody's, out to get her. They don't want to grow the...
Let's examine what actually transpired when Clark joined the WNBA. Every time the Fever visited a city, the cost of tickets increased several times. Teams that couldn't fill half their arena suddenly had sellout crowds. More people watched the Indiana Fever's opening game versus the Connecticut Sun than any other NBA playoff game that weekend. In WNBA history, Clark's rookie jersey sold the most. It wasn't even close, either. Not to mention that during her amazing debut season, she smashed 62 records.
We gotta remember, the National Basketball Association, the NBA, the commissioner, Adam Silver, he came right out and said, I wouldn't have left Caitlin Clark off that team. And he even said, and several others said, women's basketball really dropped the ball on an opportunity to grow the women's game by leaving Caitlin Clark off that team.
These improvements weren't insignificant. The way that people watched women's basketball changed dramatically, and for whatever reason, the Olympic Committee concluded that this athlete wasn't worth enough for the team. There was an instant and intense outcry. Insiders in basketball saw right through the flimsy defense. Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back while criticizing the decision, saying it deliberately hampered women's basketball's development at a critical juncture. Four-time Olympic gold medalist Lisa Leslie referred to it as the greatest marketing blunder in basketball history.
This is about what I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this decision?
What do you know? This showed an antiquated system that was managed by people who were unwilling to adapt. The committee functioned as though women's basketball was still struggling to get any attention at all in 2004. They were unable to see that Clark was more than just a gifted athlete. She presented a once-in-a-generation chance to promote the sport as a whole on a global scale. Consider it. Casual fans watch sports they might otherwise neglect during the Olympics. It is the time of the birth of new stars. Additionally, the committee purposefully decided to exclude the one player who had demonstrated her ability to draw those particular viewers.
Dummies. For the first time, in the history of basketball, you have arguably a player who is the most popular player in the world. You could argue right now, Caitlin Clark is the most talked about, discussed, most popular, most puts asses in the seats, single basketball player in the world. You could argue that. Yeah, you could say maybe LeBron, Luka, whatever you want, but you can argue it. And you leave her off the Olympics team, it's not only a showcase for her, it's for the sport and the other WNBA players who are on this team. How dumb, how brain dead, how idiotic do the people running this thing have to be?
This has to do with women's basketball losing its prominence. Something had to give because of the committee's unwavering emphasis on putting experience ahead of celebrity power, which resulted in such a PR catastrophe. It was impossible to ignore the fury. The error is too blatant to defend. Even if the public's reaction was negative, it turned out that the Olympic snub was only the obvious aspect of the situation. The entire operation of USA Basketball was exhibiting flaws behind the scenes that could no longer be disregarded. The Clark choice wasn't an isolated error. It was the inevitable outcome of a dysfunctional system that was on the verge of collapsing around its creators.
I think if Caitlin Clark would have played, it would have been the biggest ratings of the Olympic Games last year. All right, and yeah, I don't know what it could have done to women's basketball.
Cheryl Reeve wants you to think that she had nothing to do with Caitlin Clark's exclusion from the Olympic squad. According to her own statements, she had little influence over the team selection and even asserted that she received a lot of criticism for USA Basketball. Well done, coach. The facts present an entirely different picture.
But as a coach of the home team, there's going to be a lot of people cheering for that other side.
I don't get two shits.
How about one?
Not even one shit.
Any second guessing here about not having Clark on the Olympic team?
From me? No.
Reeve had a clear impact on the selection process, even if she wasn't the only voice in the room. The chair of the selection committee, Jen Rosati, acknowledged that the team was assembled especially for Reeves's coaching approach. Therefore, when Reeves claims she had no authority, what she really means is that she didn't want to accept accountability when fans asked why the most influential player in women's basketball was watching from home.
Along with nearly losing the gold medal game to France, the U.S. women's team was caught up in controversy leading up to the Olympics because Caitlin Clark was not on the team. The argument not to take Clark, a rising global megastar in the sport, was in part because she had not participated in many Team USA offseason functions, and also because there were women with more national team experience who had earned the right to play at the Olympics.
Examine the guys who were selected on the final roster. Veterans who meet the Reeves criteria. Players that put defense ahead of offensive power. The decisions made by the committee were entirely consistent with the Reeves Minnesota Lynx philosophy. It almost cost Team USA the gold medal.
She is good enough to be on the team. Based on how Caitlin Clark was playing at the time, she was worthy of being on this team. This is Caitlin Clark up against Jewel Lloyd, Diana Taurasi, and Kelsey Plum. Yeah, it's tough when you see it in front of you, right? Chelsea Gray's not even on this graph. Why isn't Chelsea Gray on this graph, you may ask? Great question. Chelsea Gray started the beginning of the season injured.
Do you recall that crucial match versus France? In a game they were expected to win, Team USA narrowly prevailed 67-66. The team had trouble producing steady offense at critical times during the competition. Every time the defense collapses on a Jaw Wilson or Brianna Stewart inside, the ball is not moving and there is insufficient three-point shooting. For these very reasons, a player such as Clark may have made the difference. At times, the squad lacked the energy and inventiveness that characterized Clark's style of play, seeming slow and predictable.
Caitlin Clark, based on skill, based on how she was performing, deserved to be on that team. Based on Chelsea Gray coming off hobbled from injury, you don't even know the status of her as a player. Caitlin Clark should have been on that team. She was easily one of the best players from Jump Street. Her struggling, oh my God, she's struggling with 16 points, 6 assists, and 5.5 rebounds. Oh my God, the struggle. She's shooting 39%. Yeah, Jewel Lloyd always shoots like trash. Kelsey, you got... Come on, guys.
Clark herself provided the most damaging evidence against Reeve's ruling. Clark averaged 15.6 points and 6.3 assists per game before to being passed over for the Olympics. Those figures increased to nearly 23 points and 9.5 assists after being cut from the team. With 19 assists in a single game, she even broke the WNBA rookie record. Not only did Clark get better, but she blew up, making the committee's evaluation of her preparedness seem absurd.
Look at this. These are the top 3 scorers in the WNBA since the women brought home gold in the Olympics a few weeks ago. 2 of the members are of the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell.
The way Reeves handled the situation just made matters worse. Why the hell would I answer a national team question? Reeves yelled in response to a reporter who inquired about Clark's Olympic prospects following a game. When the questioning became awkward, she was obviously distancing herself from her Olympic responsibilities by wearing her Minnesota Lynx clothing. This was more than a single poor choice. It had to do with leadership that was unwilling to change with the times in women's basketball. Yes, Team USA won gold, but they came dangerously close to losing.
So much conversation about women's basketball. The run you at South Carolina had to the national championship, a perfect season. Obviously, Caitlin Clark. And there was so much conversation on, should Caitlin be on the U.S. women's national team? You were part of the selection group. Mm-hmm. Give me your read on that now that we've got a little bit of time and we can get into some clear air to see what happens.
Right. When, as a committee member, you're charged with putting together best team of players, the best talent. Caitlin is just a rookie in the WNBA. Wasn't playing bad, but wasn't playing like she's playing now. If we had to do it all over again, the way that she's playing, she would be in really high consideration of making it.
The team's poor performance, Reeves's dubious personnel choices, and her prickly attitude toward constructive criticism all came together to produce the ideal storm. There has to be a change. A system that put tradition ahead of skill and marketability could not sustain USA basketball.
She is playing head and shoulders above a lot of people, shooting the ball extremely well. I mean, she is an elite passer.
If we were playing how she's playing now, she would be in high consideration. They can't even admit to themselves. If she was playing how she's playing now, yeah, she would definitely be on the team. We could have had our cake and eat it too. We got Kobe and LeBron on the same team. We did.
The Clark issue revealed more than just shortcomings in the selecting procedure. It exposed basic issues with USA Basketball's overall team-building strategy. There was more to the repercussions than simply switching coaches or adding players. It required a total rethinking of what Olympic basketball might be.
Sue Bird is expected to be announced as the managing director for the USA women's national team for the 2028 Olympic cycle. She will take on what is known as the Grant Hill role, selecting player rosters and coaching staff. And for those of you who aren't too familiar with the WNBA or the women's side of Team USA, and Grant Hill's a little bit new in this role, Jerry Colangelo role. Jerry Colangelo, the godfather of Team USA basketball from 2005 to 2021, picking, I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him.
The entire women's Olympic program was just blown away by USA basketball. The managing director of the women's national team will be Sue Bird, a 5-time Olympic gold medalist, 4-time WNBA champion, and unquestionably legendary figure in the sport. This is more than just a fresh face at the top. The future construction of Olympic teams will be completely redesigned.
USA Basketball will announce a major shift in the structuring on Thursday when Sue Bird is announced as the managing director for the USA Women's National Team 2028 cycle. Her hiring is a departure from a long-standing structure of using a committee to select players and coaches for national team rosters and comes on the heels of a very close call for the USA Women.
The statement represents a significant change in power and was first published by The Athletic and verified by multiple sources. Bird will not participate in an ambiguous committee that makes recommendations. She will have direct authority over coaching choices as well as player selection. Does that sound familiar? It ought to. This is exactly how Grant Hill, who has been in charge since 2021, runs the men's squad.
As financial opportunities for women grow in the sport and in marketing, USA Basketball wanted to make sure it was doing everything possible to ensure the allure of playing major international events remained strong, and a phone call from Bird is going to go a long way with players, one source close to the USA program said.
Consider the implications of this. No more enigmatic, behind closed-door committee decisions. No more instructors claiming to have taken bullets for choices they allegedly didn't make. Bird is where the responsibility ends. Caitlin Clark will be on the team if she wants her. Forget about it. Bird's commercial acumen, in addition to her basketball IQ, makes her ideal for this position. She is aware of what drives ticket sales and expands the game. Bird has openly recognized Clark's distinct appeal, stating, "Caitlin, especially her long-distance threes. We've finally found a cure for dunking, as I've always said." She also realized that people's negative perceptions of women's basketball were broken by Clark.
Sue Bird is taking over as managing director of USA Basketball. And this is done in a model of the men's way of doing it. Okay? She will have the say over who makes this team.
That goes beyond simple praise. IT acknowledges Clark's marketability. Bird understands. She is aware that star power is just as important as traditional basketball skills. Although winning gold medals is undoubtedly the main objective, the Olympics are about more than that. The goal is to introduce the sport to millions of casual spectators who could develop into lifelong supporters.
But Sue Bird's been a vocal supporter of Caitlin Clark. The fact is, while everybody was coming down on Caitlin Clark last year, so many, she was one that was trying to prop her up and was an advocate for Caitlin. I do not think Caitlin Clark will not make that team next time, I can tell you that.
Additionally, Bird has a level of credibility with current players that no one else can equal. She faced off against or with almost all of the league's well-known stars. She is aware of who gets along well with others, who inspires comrades, and who falters under pressure. When assembling an Olympic roster, that knowledge is priceless. This announcement's timing is not coincidence. As the Clark incident developed, USA Basketball observed how the program's reputation was harmed. They saw a gold medal game that was uncomfortably close. As women's basketball reaches its golden period of popularity, they realized that maintaining the previous structure was unsustainable.
Bird's new role is a major change for USA Basketball. Previously, the women's team and coaching staff was named by committee. Now, that is Sue Bird's job. Wow.
Bird's appointment is a clear departure from custom and politics. A team means that when it comes to creating teams, USA Basketball is finally prepared to embrace both elite talent and marketability. No more old-fashioned thinking. No more enigmatic committee rulings. Simple basketball selections made by a person who is knowledgeable about both the game and its business aspects. What does this reorganization especially mean for Caitlin Clark, then? Her chances of competing in the Olympics have significantly improved, and the tale of her possible salvation is just getting started.